Moving on, an Anambra native doctor, Chidozie Nwangu, popularly known as Aku Okoko, is facing 6 charges from the state government, including alleged involvement in money rituals and suspected ties to drug dealers. If he's convicted, he could face up to 20 years in prison. He was arrested earlier this month after Governor Charles Soludo declared a crackdown on native doctors amidst all the rising criminal activities in the state. Now, lots of people are sharing the sentiment online and asking the question, are we criminalizing sacred religious practices of traditional religion? I beg to differ. I really do think that it's one thing to practice traditional religion and a completely other story to use traditional religion as a means to commit crime. I'm going to take some social media. He's very popular in the East. Paul Twin says, this is a proper witch hunt. All these charges are exactly the same thing every pastor is guilty of. They all pray for the same fraudsters and Yahoo boys. I have no connection with this man, but he's simply being made an example of. It took almost 2 weeks to charge him properly. Grandpa Frank says, you mean he can't disappear from custody and appear in his living room? Valid question. And finally, Wisdom says, I want to believe he has enough charms to deliver himself from the encumbrances of the law. Those who claim to have the powers to deliver others from difficulties should be able to deliver themselves, not only...
When we see someone like this, 20 years imprisonment, if he is found guilty at the end of the day, I feel is too small. In my perspective, look at the number of persons that have died as a result of his activities. They went to his shrine, they saw evidence. So what will they plan to do at the end of the day? Is 20 years enough to give a closure to families who lost their loved ones as a result of his activities? That's the big question. So he needs to face the full wrath of the law if he is found guilty. And right now, I don't think he is not guilty. Now, this is me speaking.
Let me quickly add one more thought. for the man, contributing to ritualism, we should be very careful, because one of the tweets saying that, is it a fight against traditional religion? Whether it is Christian religion or Islamic religion or traditional religion, I believe that none of these religions, teaches to be fetish. I mean, when you say fetish, to kill your fellow human being because you're seeking money or because you're seeking wealth or anything, that is crime, that is criminal. So whoever is found wanting, guilty of this criminality, must be dealt with.
Absolutely, and I think
decisively.
this case is particularly interesting because he's being celebritized. He has amassed a status and a following in the East, and young people need to see that this is not okay and we are not celebrating.
But back to the guy who is in prison, a native doctor, we have seen the rise in ritualism, and we need to make ensure that we teach this notion that ritualism is not the way to go, because a lot of young persons have seemingly adopted that as against working smart and hard to achieving their dreams. So it's important that these lessons are taught.
Look at the 2 young women that just passed away a few months ago, back to back, bodies found butchered. It's unacceptable, Veronica, I agree with you.
Femicide is not acceptable.